Hello and welcome to another monthly manga wrap-up. This one for the month of May. I'm a little bit late recording this. I mean, this will be uploaded today as the day of this is recording, which is 31st of May. So I'm just in time. However, I would have preferred to have recorded each of my thoughts individually on every series that I read at the time that I finished reading them, rather than doing it all in one go. Like, I don't really normally like this format, but it's been a very busy month for me. So I'm going to get an opportunity to record it now. I'm going to try and make it as short as possible, as these videos are usually quite long. And I have actually got through quite a nice little stack this month, considering how busy I was. I've read quite a lot of manga, and I'm really pleased with myself. I think that's testament to the fact that the majority of things that I read this month, I really, really, really liked, and just kind of binged all the way through them. So let's make a start anyway. The first thing I read this month was Taya Matsumoto's Cats of the Louvre. It's a beautiful hardcover. It's actually a 2-in-1 hardcover. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but one thing I really liked about this is the art style is a lot more refined than the previous 3 works by Matsumoto that I've read, those being Go-Go Monster, Tekken King Crete, and Blue Spring, where the art style is a lot more chaotic. In this, he kind of opts for a more realistic approach. I mean, obviously the art style itself is still very much indicative of his, French Nouveau. I don't know what you really call it, but French comic art style. But it's a lot more easier to navigate than his other works, which are a lot more abstract looking. But yeah, I really like this. This is one. This is part of a series. I believe that the Louvre Art Gallery in Paris, every year they have a different comic artist contribute a piece to one of their exhibitions, and that could be any comic artist. I think it's worldwide. And I believe on 3 occasions, 3 of those comic artists have been manga artists, one being Taya Matsumoto, and the others being Hirohiko Araki of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fame, and also Jiro Taniguchi, who, funnily enough and nicely enough, makes a cameo appearance in this towards the end. But yeah, it's a nice little book. It's basically about cats who secretly live in an attic in the Louvre Gallery. And there's like a little bit of a mystery with the caretaker, an old caretaker, a janitor sort of type character, whose little sister went missing in the Louvre Gallery when they were children, and it's just trying to tie the mystery of his missing sisters to the cats that live in the Louvre. And one thing that's really nice about how the cats are kind of engaged in this manga is that when there's no other humans around, they're presented as anthropomorphic, so they're personified. So the main character on the front cover, this little white kitten you can see there with the yellow and blue eyes, it's called Snow Baby. I think that's how you pronounce it. There's an accent on each of the E's of baby. It's either Snow Beeb or Snow Baby. I call it Snow Baby. I think it's supposed to be like Snow Baby because like it's a kitten, and it's just he's kind of aloof. He's like the aloof one in the group of cats that he lives with. It's a really nice, cool dynamic between him and the other cats. I'm not really going to talk about too much about it because it's a short enough read. Anything that I really say will potentially be spoilers. So, but it was a really enjoyable read. I got through this pretty quickly, and it really made me appreciate Matsumoto as an artist a lot more than I believe his other works did, because I think this was a lot more accessible. I would definitely recommend this as like a first read. If you're unfamiliar with Taya Matsumoto's work and you feel it's a little bit out there, I'd say definitely give this a shot. As it's really easy to navigate, and the artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. The next thing that I read, which was my favourite read of this month, and I read this over a course of 4 or 5 days, like within a week, and that was The Drifting Classroom by Kazuo Umez, the master of horror. This is the first manga by him I've ever read, I am aware that he has got some other, or has had some other manga published in English before, like Cat-Eyed Boy, and I believe a couple of old Dark Horse manga that are now since out of print. But this was amazing. This was so good. This genuinely like made me like put me on edge a couple of times. And it's basically about a classroom in Japan that experiences some kind of phenomenon. Just a really loud bang and subsequent earthquake happens, and they find that they've been the whole building of the classroom, along with all the inhabitants inside, all the teachers and all the students, have been transported to what is seemingly a completely new dimension, a dimension that is just nothing but endless sand dunes and apocalyptic storms. And it's basically like a Lord of the Flies survival horror, where they quickly have to learn to exist in this new barren world, ration the food stores that they have, and what's really interesting is that the the children in this are a lot more responsible than the adults. The teachers, because they're all adults, and they find it more difficult to comprehend the circumstances that they're in because they're already mature. So they're the ones that quickly start to unravel psychologically and fail to cope under these new circumstances. Whereas the children are a lot more adaptable, which is really cool. But it's really violent. This covers are beautiful as well, as you can see. So it's 3 volumes, but yeah, it is incredibly violent, considering that it was a shonen released back in, I believe it was the 70s. I mean, demographics are, really, who gives a shit, really. But technically it was a shonen, and it ran in a shonen magazine, but there is so much death in this. So many kids just die, get like mutilated, chopped into bits, butchered by some of the kids like turn on each other, and like factions and new religions sprout out of everything. It's maddening, but really thoroughly enjoyable. It does. I think it does become somewhat of a victim of its own length, as Kazuo Omes introduces certain Deus Ex Machina moments that just really don't fit within the series. But you just have to suspend your disbelief a little bit at some of the moments that happen. Like, for instance, they come across quite early on. Actually, they come across a gun. Now, if you're familiar with gun laws in Japan, almost nobody owns guns. You have to have a license to own a gun, but there just so happens to be a loaded handgun like in the playground that they just randomly come across, and there's no explanation ever given as to why that was there. So that there's certain moments like that where Kazuo Omes introduces a certain element to the story just to add more drama, but doesn't really give any explanation as to how it, how that happened, or how, the certain thing got there in the first place, to kind of give you any context. It's just kind of like put there just to fuck with you, or just to fuck with the characters. But yeah, other than those kind of elements where you're just like, what? Come on, that's stupid. It was a really enjoyable read. Ended up giving it an 8 out of 10. Many people may rate it a lot lower, like because of those kind of stupid elements. But just from the pure enjoyment aspect of it, I rated it really highly. I really enjoyed the characters. They're all really goofy, and despite that, the terror that they convey is really palpable. I think Kazuo Omes does a really good job of rendering absolute terror in his characters. Like particularly in the facial expressions, that really works. So you can genuinely feel that sense of dread that the characters have. I mean, throughout the whole thing, I was kind of putting myself in their shoes. What if I was transported to another dimension that was completely inhospitable? You would just panic. So for that, I thought it was just amazing, absolutely beautiful. The next thing I read was probably my least favourite thing this month. I really didn't enjoy this, and that was Wolf's Rain, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Thankfully, this is only a 2-volume series. I've never seen the Wolf's Rain anime. I know it's highly regarded. This is an adaptation of the anime, and more often than not, adaptations of original source material never really kind of live up to the original source materials, kind of hype and expectations. So maybe this was a victim of that. But apparently, this is more or less a carbon copy of the anime in terms of the story. It follows the events pretty faithfully, apparently. I mean, I'm not sure how, because I think the anime is 30 episodes long, or 30 or 40 episodes long, and this is only 2 volumes, and the story is really quick. But it's basically about it's set in like a what we believe is a post-apocalyptic future where wolves are kind of on the brink of extinction, and the wolves have the ability to cloak themselves to make themselves look human. There's no real explanation for that. And the main wolf, this guy in the front cover here, whose name escapes me, he's looking for this place called Paradise. And you don't really know what Paradise is. He's just looking for it. So he's on this endless journey looking for Paradise. And there's also this girl. She's upside down there, but I'll just kind of show her the right way up. This girl here as well, who has like some kind of inextricable link to the wolves, and she's known as like the flower or something like that, lunar flower, and she's kind of like got this, I don't know, sort of power that is linked to the wolves. You never really know why that is. It deals. I mean, this for me was it's a very evidently post Neon Genesis Evangelion style manga. A lot of questions, very little answers, and it was just kind of more of the same of what I've seen before. So I never really resonated with any of the characters. I mean, they're the four of the main characters on the front cover there. Yeah, I never really resonated with any of them, and if I can't resonate with the characters, then it's kind of it's already failing out of the gate for me. I'm not really going to enjoy the read. The artwork was really nice. It's very typically late 90s, early 2000s style artwork, but for what it is, it's good. It's just it's nothing amazing. It was just okay. It was yeah, I mean, it's violent. It's got a lot of melodrama, but I never resonated with the characters. And for a 2-volume series, I think if you're going to have such a short series, then the series should be much more character focused rather than world building focused. You can't really build a world within such a short amount of page space or book length space. I think this would have worked a lot better if it was much more character focused, which this wasn't. I think this maybe relies heavily on the idea that you've already watched the anime and you're already a fan of the anime to be able to appreciate this. So, I worked backwards with that, and it didn't really work in its favour. So, it wasn't that much of a commitment. It was only 2 volumes, so I don't really regret reading it, but it's probably not something I will read again. Okay, the next thing I read was a single volume, again, another manga adaptation of an anime, and that was volume 1 of Puella Magi Madoka Magica. Again, this is something that does rely heavily on you already being a fan of this franchise, which I am. I loved the anime when I watched it about 5 or 6 years ago. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, one of my favourite anime of all time. But this really doesn't add anything to it. It is pretty much just, from what I recall, more or less a carbon copy again of the anime. If you enjoy and love the anime, and you're looking for something that kind of expands on it, this probably isn't it. I mean, I think this is 3 volumes, in total. So I don't know if it veers off the track, in future volumes. But I'm not particularly too interested to divulge into further volumes. One thing that kind of puts me off as well is the vast amount of spin-offs that this has. This has a stupid amount of spin-offs for like each different magical girl, and like I don't know, and others as well. I've no idea, but that just makes it so inaccessible for just like your normal kind of standard manga reader who isn't already a fan of this sort of stuff. So I really don't have the commitment to invest in all the other spin-offs as well, and I don't even know if you need to read the spin-offs in order to kind of appreciate this, because I mean this is only 3 volumes long. The anime is 12 episodes, and then there's the movies as well. So I don't know how far it goes, or I don't know how much of the anime it adapts in 3 volumes, but in 3 volumes, because towards the end of this, the end of this volume is just when Madoka is making the contract with Kyubey to become a magical girl. So I can't remember exactly where that happened in the anime, but I'm pretty sure it was like within like the first 1 or 2 episodes. I don't know. I don't remember. It's years ago since I've seen it, but again, it's nice. It's got like a nice color page, which is kind of standard of like a Yen Press release, really. The artwork is it doesn't really. I mean, if you've watched the anime, then you know that the witches, like the kind of antagonists, the monsters in the series, are like rendered kind of in this like sort of like a like newspapery sort of collage sort of style, which doesn't really come across very well in the manga. It works a lot better as an anime than it does as a manga. So this is very much a suboptimal, variation of this franchise. And it's not something I particularly recommend unless you're an absolute super fan and you must own everything that is Madoka Magica related. I think this was re-released in an omnibus as well. Don't quote me on that, because again, there's a vast amount of spin-offs, so I could be wrong. So the singles actually might be out of print, but this is something that I do plan to unhaul. I am going to drop this. I'm more than satisfied with just the anime. I think the anime is the better way to go with this, and I don't really have a particular interest in reading this, even though I really love the story and I love the characters, and it's a really, really good sort of character piece. Each character really does get their opportunity to shine in this. I think the anime does a much better job. So that's volume 1 of Puella Magi Madoka Magica, which I will not be continuing with. And the last completed series that I read, I'm actually making good time, 18 minutes, was Osamu Tezuka's Captain Ken. I enjoyed this somewhat, but it was a little bit of a slog, as that there are absolutely no chapters in this. There's no chapter breakers at all. Like similarly with Akira, if you've read Akira, which are actually really easy reads, this doesn't have any chapters at all, and all the panels are like super cramped up and small on the page. It was a really uncomfortable read, because there's no breaks. You have to kind of just like make them yourself. So I didn't enjoy reading this, even though the story was interesting. It's basically about the titular Captain Ken on the cover there, set in the future, and it starts out with a young girl arriving. It's set in the future. Starts out with a young girl arriving on Mars, where there's like a new human colonies, and the young girl's also called Ken Minakami, and somebody else has followed her there, the titular Captain Ken, who's very mysterious, but he strives at all costs in order to save her from the danger that she's exposed to, and he's got his own kind of reasons for that. But basically, it's kind of like it's basically a spaghetti western, a space western set in space, and the Martians, the native Martians, are at war with the colonial humans that have settled there, and it's very much a kind of like cowboys versus Indians sort of thing. It's very on the nose when it comes to that. And it was for the most part enjoyable. It's very much kind of standard of Tezuka's sort of shonen work. There's a lot of comedic elements that just don't, the jokes just don't sit right. Especially when, like, for instance, there's really heavy themes in this, such as ethnic cleansing, genocide, I guess human supremacy. Maybe it's kind of like an allegory for white supremacy, or white colonialism. And they'll be like, there's a scene particularly where there's a bunch of Martians peacefully protesting, like, also like slavery as well. Slavery is a big theme in this, and there's a group of Martians that are enslaved to like mine in a quarry, and they all start peacefully protesting, and they all just get shot. All of them just get killed, like women and children, and they just get killed. And in the middle of there'll be like a gag sort of like slapstick joke, and it's like, this joke just doesn't work. Like there's literally ethnic cleansing happen, and there's jokes in it. It's maybe it's a victim of the time that it was published, like back in like the 60s. But those elements of it I really, really didn't enjoy. Not because I was offended by them. I'm not really offended by anything. I can read anything, but it just seems so out of place. It's like that for such a serious moment. Like the serious moments were really let down by the humor that was in it. There's too much humor in this for what it is, and the serious subject matter that it covers. I think this would have worked much, much better if it was if it not only removed all the humor, but kind of used it sparingly. But there's just too much slapstick comedy in it, and it for what it was and what it was portraying, it just didn't work. So it's very likely not something I will reread. That's volume 2 as well, by the way. Likely not something I will ever reread, but for what it was, I enjoyed it. The artwork is very charming, very kind of pre-Gekiga Tezuka, his kind of Disney-esque sort of style that you'd be very familiar with if you've read things like Astro Boy, Triton of the Sea, Dororo, Princess Knight. It's the exact same art style. And one thing as well, another criticism of it is that there's also another guy called I think it's called Mamoru, who he literally looks exactly like Captain Ken. Like, there's not much character differentiation between them both. Also, sometimes I was getting a little bit confused between, wait, is this Mamoru or is this Captain Ken? So it's kind of difficult to kind of distinguish them apart. But yeah, that's another Tezuka off the checklist. I've only now got Swallowing the Earth to read by him, and that'll be literally everything of his that I own, that I've read. Anywho, the next thing that I've picked up, and this is something that I'm rereading. It's the first time I'm reading it in this edition. I used to own the singles for this. This is the first time I'm reading it in this edition, and that is Naoki Urasawa's Monster. It's been a long time since I've read this. It's been years, in fact, maybe about 5 or 6 years. So this is all kind of like fresh. Going into it again I remember some of the main plot points, and I remember some of the most of the characters. But one thing that works very well for Naoki Urasawa's Monster is that early on the chapters are very self-contained. It's volume 2, and the volume that I'm currently on, volume 3. The chapters are very self-contained, so some of the characters that appear in chapters don't appear later on. So that kind of works very well for it. It's very much kind of like a, Tezuka, not Tezuka. The main character, Dr. Tenma, is an expert neurosurgeon who saves the life of a young boy who gets shot in the head, and then years later, when that boy's grown up, it turns out that this boy is a serial killer. So Tenma has to kind of go AWOL from his role and try and track down this person who he once saved, who is now a serial killer, because he's getting pinned for the crimes. Tenma's getting framed as a serial killer, so he's on the run from the police, but also trying to catch Johann Liebert, the main antagonist. But early on, Tezuka's traveling around Germany, where it's set to different towns, kind of try to pick up leads and clues and everything like that as to Johann's whereabouts. And intermingled with this will be kind of like, little subplots within those chapters, self-contained, where Tezuka will meet some new people or a new community of people, and those people will have their own kind of problem that may be intermingled with Tezuka's expertise as a doctor, or intermingled with certain clues as to finding Johann, or something to do with Johann's history, and it'll kind of get intermingled in those little subplots in each chapter. So it feels fresh. It's a very kind of reinvigorating read, coming from having read it before a number of years ago. So I'm really, really enjoying this, especially in these editions as well, because from what I recall of the singles, it was all in grayscale, where in this we get treated to really, really beautiful colour pages, really vibrant as well. I mean, it's like literally the first page, and then I'm just trying to find a good one. Yeah, colour pages here as well. So that it's a nice treat. I mean, these perfect editions are absolutely gorgeous. I did really sleep on these, so I had volume 1 for years. I bought a volume 1 when it first came out in like 2014 or something like that. And I slept on them for years. I was like, I'll pick it up eventually. I've already read it. I'm in no rush. But then it was this year that they all started to go out of stock, and I was like, oh my god, it's going out of print. I better pick these up as fast as possible, because I don't want to miss out on collecting it. So I finally finished it just a couple of months ago in terms of collecting the whole series, and I'm rereading through it now. So, right. Well, that actually worked really well. I think I gave some pretty concise thoughts on each of the volumes, each of the series that I read, all in good time as well. So that's been everything that I've read for May. One thing that I forgot to mention as well, which is something that I really wanted to mention with the first series that I read, Cats of the Louvre, was translated by Michael Arias, or Arias, however you pronounce it, the guy who directed the Tekken Concrete movie. So that was interesting. Obviously, he's got the credit of him in the back. Translation and English adaptation, Michael Arias. So, yeah, I thought it was really cool. So anyway, that's been everything that I've read. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up. Drop your comments for what you've read, or thoughts on the series that I've read this month. Any of your opinions. One thing I'd like you to do is share the video around. I'd really like to kind of get the word out for my videos. Get a little bit more exposure. So if you feel so inclined, share it around in whatever communities you have, your friends or whatever. And I'll see you for the next one. See ya.